Hey, it's Doug. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining me here today. We're going to be looking at Bulls in the Bronx by Pierce the Veil. So I'm going to break this song down for you to show you all of the really interesting creative musical decisions that the band has made. So hopefully you can take some really good ideas and inspiration from this and incorporate it in your own songwriting. With that said, if you'd like to work alongside with me so I can help you create your own music, learn how to improve your singing voice to sound just like your favorite artists, and record that music and release it, well, you can go to my website down there and you can work alongside me. All right, let's get into it. We're going to be looking at the song. The first thing I want to talk about is how the song starts with a 1-bar drum fill. Check this out. So I think that's interesting because it definitely gives the listener, us, a sense of how aggressive and punchy this song's going to be, and it also sets the tempo. Now, it's not uncommon that a song starts with a drum hit or a drum fill. For example, last week when we were looking at That's What You Get by Paramore, that song also started with a drum hit on the snare. It's quite an interesting way to go about it, so you can absolutely incorporate some sort of drum fill or hit as the first thing that the audience hears in your own music. Let's look at the main riff that the guitar plays now. So this riff, this one, that is a very important motif in the song, and they've actually made a lot of creative mixing and production decisions around that riff. It plays in the intro, the verses, verse 1 and verse 2, and at different points in the song, you can hear the riff in both left and right speakers, left and right ears, and then at some points you can only hear it in the left pan, the left ear, and they do this to give you a very interesting effect in terms of the layering of the soundscape that you hear. So I'll play it now, and I might even put some, annotations on the screen so that you can hear it. So isn't that interesting how you hear it at the beginning, left and right, and then in that next section, you only hear it in the left ear, and then the next section, it comes back. And that's because they've literally double tracked the guitar for the left and right speakers. So what double tracking means is when you play the riff and you record it, then the producer will record that again, playing it exactly the same. And then the mixing engineer, the producer, will put one of those recordings on the left ear and one of those recordings on the right ear, and then you hear it as one stereo sound. And right after that, they've decided to not use the right ear and just put it in the left ear. It's really cool. Okay, the next really important thing that I need to share with you about the riff is that there is a modification to the way that it's played. There is actually an added pinch harmonic, it's called, to the riff. I'll explain what that is in a moment, but let me just show you what it sounds like. So the normal riff is, with the pinch harmonic, it sounds like this. Now, what that is when you pluck the string, you pluck it with the pick as usual, and then you lightly tap it with your thumb. And it creates, I believe, what's called an artificial harmonic. To use this in such a creative way, to literally input it into your riff, I think is actually quite fascinating. There's a few more things I want to share with you about the guitar. First up is this pre-chorus sliding octave riff. So what's happening here is he starts on the 1st fret and then slides to the 13th fret. The reason why that works is because when you slide up 12 frets on a guitar from 1st to 13, that's an octave, just like open to 12. And that will sound good if you incorporate it in anything you do. So if you go from C on the A string and slide to 15 on the A string, it's gonna sound cool. So you can absolutely use that. All right, let's look at the chorus guitar. So what I like about this chorus riff is that it switches between regular chords and single plucked notes. So that's the chord, and then I think that's really cool. So that shows me when you're writing, absolutely you can incorporate not just chords in the chorus, which is kind of like the go-to, right? You always use chords in a chorus, but you can incorporate single notes into a riff. I think that's just so cool. I also think that last chord is quite significant. It's got like this major third in the chord. That actually happens again in the second pre-chorus. There's actually an interesting chord back here. So what's happening here is that there is this kind of like major 7th sound, and then onto. So I really think Vic does this a lot. He incorporates these kind of, jazz-esque chords, but, in this post-hardcore emo rock style. It's very cool. All right, let's have a look at that Spanish guitar section now. The first thing I want to point out to you is that they've used the nylon string guitar in quite an interesting way. First off, there is actually this rhythm that they've recorded, like a percussive sound of the strings sort of being slapped like this. See if you can hear it, it's in the background. So what that tells me is that they actually had to put a microphone up to a nylon string guitar and record what I just played. It's quite interesting. And then when it comes to the actual playing of the nylon string guitar, I actually think that they've used a guitar pick, because usually a nylon string guitar is plucked with your fingers, and they've actually chosen to use a guitar pick, which does have a different tone. The next thing is that they've incorporated electric bass and drums, as well as the Spanish guitar, in the section where it sort of picks up the pace. And I think that's quite creative, because even though this section is completely different to all the other sounds, when you start adding back in electric bass and drums, I think that it's a really good bridge between, the very acoustic sound and the electric sound that the band uses throughout the rest of the track. So it's really cool. All right, let's look at what the bass is doing. There's quite a few neat little riffs that are in here that I think are noteworthy. Check this out. So this is the chorus. I like this section though. I feel like just those notes give the bass something, it gives the song a little bit of spark in that section. Then going into the second chorus, there's a pre-chorus. The bass part could have just been very simple, going something like this. But it doesn't. It's actually quite complicated. It goes. I think that's so cool. So basically adding these, an octave run, and then sliding up from the D to the high D. It's very cool. The last thing that I want to show you is the bass playing in the bridge. So there's this kind of higher note phrase. It goes, don't take this out on me, 'cause you're the only thing that's keeping me alive. And then the bass goes down an octave. Don't want the dose that did, 'cause I'd rather end it all tonight. And if I mean anything to you, I'm sorry, but So what I'm trying to show you is that they've went from the higher note all the way down to. You do that as a bass player because you're kind of playing with the texture that gets created in the sound. So when you are creating your own music, if you want that very low booming note, you go to the low note. But if you're trying to get the feeling of the song to be a bit more light and, almost raise the sort of the higher spectrum of sound in the song, you can play these higher versus. It really changes the sound of the song when you incorporate higher bass notes. Let's look at the song as a whole now, because I want to tell you about the structure of the song, because it's quite advanced. On the screen, you've got a basic song structure for a band such as like the Beatles or, any really old contemporary song that you might hear on the radio. The structure might be something like this. Intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, and chorus. And that's the end of the song. Bulls in the Bronx is like this. There's an intro, verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus 2, chorus extension, bridge section 1, bridge section 2, chorus, extended chorus, and outro. So even the fact that this song has 2 bridges, and the first one I've considered bridge 1 is the Spanish guitar section, and bridge 2 is the please don't take this out on me, the electric guitar section that builds there. The fact that this song even has like a 1.5-minute section of completely new ideas is very unique to a band like, Pierce the Veil. They used to be described as quite a progressive band, especially in their early days, and I think it's quite true. I think that Pierce the Veil as a band take musical risks and creative risks and pull it off beautifully. So I just want you to understand that there's reasons why a band like Pierce the Veil can take you on this journey with their music. When I start a song by Pierce the Veil, especially their longer songs, it really feels like I'm taken on a musical journey. And that a lot of that has to do with the fact that the structures are quite advanced. Let's look at the vocals in this song. I'm going to play you the a cappella track.
Do you know I count your heartbeats before you sleep? I bite my fingernails to bone. And then I crawl back under the stairwell to a place I call my home. I really hope you enjoyed the show, because for me it's just a bad day. You need people like me to fail. Maybe we're just having too much fun. Maybe you can't handle yourself, staring at me with your lips and tongue.
The first thing that I want to point out to you is that there is actually tuning on the vocal. So I'm talking about pitch correction. It's been pitch tuned. The reason why this is significant is because they've done it as a production choice, okay? It's not because Vic needs to rely on pitch correction to be able to sound good. That's not the case at all. The reason why a band like Pierce the Veil would use tuning, okay, it's to achieve a particular sound in the mix, right? So auto-tune or whatever can be used as a criticism of someone who can't sing And that, potentially could be true, right? But I want to make it incredibly clear that they've used it to make a particular sound come out in the mix. So let me explain. This song is incredibly complicated. There are synthesizers, there are piano parts, there are multiple guitar parts, there's a bass part, there's heaps of drums. There is so much going on sonically. I actually think that the tuning of the voice has been used as a way to create this incredibly crisp sound, even a somewhat artificial sound that sits incredibly well with this complexity of instruments. It's a little bit hard to understand what I'm talking about unless you've had production experience. But the truth is, if the vocal was not tuned, it may not have the same punch and sort of crisp sound that it does have in the final recording. The next thing I want you to understand is that the vocals have actually been doubled. So what that means is that in many instances, Vic has recorded the same line and they've sandwiched the vocals together. I'll play a line from the chorus and you may be able to hear it.
Maybe we're just having too much fun. Maybe you can't handle yourself.
That is the sound of you singing the same exact line in unison with yourself. That's what it sounds like when you do that. All right, let me show you another section.
My God, I'm the serpent. I'm sorry, I can't see that you truly love me.
So one thing that I think is cool about that is that the line, love me, it's completely panned to the left. It sounds like it has this effect on it that makes it feel more distant in the background. Things like that, these edits to the vocals, it just really changes up the flow of how you hear them. So it's incredibly important to try to incorporate this kind of editing and mix decisions in your own music. Check out the second chorus vocal because there's some interesting stuff going on.
Maybe we're just having too much fun. Maybe you can't handle yourself, staring at me with your lips and tongue. I've been having this dream that we can...
So in this second chorus, there's this really interesting but faint falsetto sound, which sounds something like fun. Have a listen to that.
Fun. Maybe.
And then there's this really interesting lower harmony that I feel like you couldn't really hear unless it was in a cappella. Have a listen.
Staring at me with your lips and tongue. I've been
It sounded something like this. Staring at me with your lips and tongue. Have a listen one more time.
Staring at me with your lips and tongue. I've been
So one thing I want to point out here is that this is the second chorus of the song. And there are all these extra harmonies that you're hearing now. So why didn't they put that in the first chorus as well? It's because as a songwriter, sometimes you want to create more intensity as the song sort of progresses and add more textures. So that's why they've decided to only add these harmonies in the second chorus. They thought it was not good to do that in both choruses and they should save it for, like a minute 15 into the song as the song builds in dynamic and texture. It's pretty cool. The last thing that I want to show you in the vocals is this really cool reverb and delay sound that they use in the bridge of the song.
Please don't take this out on me, 'cause you're the only thing that's keeping me alive. And I don't wanna wait for the downside day.
What I'm trying to point out here is that sometimes the effects that you use on your voice, in this case, a really constant delay, the da, 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 that kind of sound, the effects itself add so much to the songwriting. So it might not be something that you come up with on guitar or you come up with your voice, but it's something that you add as you are making your creative mix decisions. Like that itself is part of the songwriting process. Well, I hope you enjoyed my song breakdown of Bulls in the Bronx by Pierce the Veil. It's an incredible song with an incredibly deep meaning. I didn't even touch on that because, I just wanted to focus on the instruments and the instrumentation. But yeah, it's an amazing song. I hope you liked it. Leave me a comment down below if there's any song you'd like me to break down. Leave this video a like, subscribe if you hadn't already, and yeah, check out my website. description below. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.